I'm really quite honoured to be able to speak this evening. It has been a long day, and with the rains we've got here in South Australia and all the vegetation now, we're all been suffering a bit with hay fever over here. But I think to be able to talk about, us as Catholics and opening ourselves to Christ at the Peripheries. And I think what I'm honoured to talk about this because I think we do that well already. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. First of all, just talking about the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander experience, I think first thing I'd like to say, being Catholic for my family has been really important. My grandmother had 15 children, and my mum grew up on 4 missions in South Australia. And my grandfather was part of the stolen generation, and he worked extremely hard to make sure that none of his children were taken away. So they moved around country South Australia quite a lot from the different missions. And but the issue was, in their moving, a lot of the public schools wouldn't take them. And it was because they were Catholic, the Catholic schools would take them in. And so my mother and my uncles and aunties wouldn't have had an education if it wasn't for our Catholic schools. So for us, being Catholic is really important. I think the other thing is I'd like to talk about is being Catholic was really important to us because it lifted our profile as Aboriginal people in this country. With my mum growing up and at the time of the exemption certificates, and there was rules set up for Catholic, and they weren't for Aboriginal people, and they wasn't treated very well in the community. But when they would say they're Catholic, other Catholics in Australia would treat them well. And that was something that was really important to our family. I guess being Catholic and growing up in country South Australia, our Catholic faith was important to us, and the connection that I had. And I remember going to school in Cooper and learning about the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the priest used to come in and teach us. And those days we called it RI, religious instruction. And I couldn't work out the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, the 3 equals 1, which was God. And I thought I was okay at math, but I couldn't work. How can 3 equal 1? And it was something that bothered me for quite some time. But when I was about 12 and a half years old, my grandfathers from the Pitjantjatjara and Yankunytjatjara lands come and got me and took me out bush for men's ceremony and went through initiation. And they taught me the chukurpa, which is the Aboriginal dream time. And they drew a diagram in the red sand, and they drew 3 circles. One was the human world, the physical world, and the sacred world. And the grandfather said, but we could actually draw 1 circle because the 3 are 1. And I thought, hey, wait a minute, that's a little bit like the Trinity, the Holy Trinity. And so I made a really strong connection between Catholic faith and Aboriginal spirituality. And the more I looked into it, I could see similarities, but understanding how they both complemented each other. And even going out bush and some of our elders reading the Bible, and some of the elders reading the Bible would say, gee, I would like reading this Bible. A lot of these stories in the Bible are very similar to our traditional stories. But we see in the connection of the Holy Spirit in this land, and the connection that we lived in harmony with the land. And I think that's one great example of us going to the Peripheries and learning about some of the disadvantaged people within the community, and looking at some of the issues that we have. And I believe by us doing that, going out there, some of the answers are there, and we can look at that, and that will basically build society and give us a greater understanding. I think the other part of that is, I think us as the church and our Catholic, not just the church, our Catholic services, our schools, don't advertise or talk about a lot of the good work we do. And I'm very honoured to be Catholic, and the connection that I've had with our Catholic sisters, our priest, our bishops, our archbishops, and those experiences. And some of our people and sisters and priests in the community that I've been connected with, they've been doing a lot of great work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people for many years. And I don't think we acknowledge that enough. Yes, we're in that situation. I was fortunate enough to go to Alice Springs when St. Pope John Paul II visited Australia. And in his speech, which was very significant, saying that, the church itself, the Catholic Church in Australia, will not recognise itself as a complete church until we recognise our Indigenous people in this country. And I think that's really quite significant. And I had an experience of working with a big company in Queensland, and they employed me, and they said, look, John, we work all around Australia. We go out and work near Aboriginal communities, but we don't do enough for our communities. And they said, look, we'll give you a job to go out and do some research, and what's the best way that we can help these communities. And one of the things that I come out with was really to something positive, is to be able to offer some people employment in these communities. And that really lifted the profile of Aboriginal people. And that was a little while after Pope John Paul's speech, but a businessman out of Western Australia come out and said that from one of the programs that we ran and talked about the importance of employing Aboriginal people, let's give 50,000 jobs, us as businesses in Australia, let's give 50,000 jobs to Aboriginal people. And that was something that was really quite positive in Australia. And I think us as the Catholic Church, and from the Pope John Paul II speech, was an opportunity for us to actually probably do a bit more. And it's not too late. And so I think us as going out to the peripheries, and I think it'll be good for the church as well, because what I facilitate cultural awareness programs, and I'm finding in society today that there is a hunger for Australians. They want to learn more about Aboriginal culture, our connection to country, how we dealt with environment, a whole lot of areas. And I think us working in this area would really encourage, a lot more of our younger people to get involved in the church again. And not just our younger people. A lot of the elders within the church, even now, talk about some of their experiences, and they talk about their experiences in education. And they said, when we went to school, we didn't learn much about Aboriginal people and Aboriginal culture. So I think that hunger, and with us as the Catholic Church in Australia, going out to the peripheries, not just in Aboriginal, in areas where there's alcohol, drug addictions, violence, domestic violence, going out there and getting involved. The beauty of that is dealing with these people, and in lots of cases, they know what the issues are. They know how to resolve them. And I think that would really benefit us as a church, but also make us unite as all Catholics, and that will enrich our services and us as the church. I remember years ago hearing a story from out of Darwin, and there were some people from overseas, and they were lost in Darwin, and they said, "Look, we're looking for the Catholic Church, the cathedral in Darwin." And they come across this Aboriginal bloke, and they said, "Can you show us where the cathedral is?" And the Aboriginal bloke said, "Yeah, no worries." He said, "Look, I'll take you there." And he took him to the Vinnie store. And I've been on state council for Vinnie's for about 10 years. I'm not on state council anymore because I'm on so many other committees. But I think that's just an example of us as the church and the area that we could probably work on and develop and learn from working on the peripheries. I think, and like I said, I think it's something that us as the church, there's a hunger, and the younger people I work with. I was talking to Bishop Charles recently. We had our Nazi assembly in Townsville, and it was just so pleasing to be involved in our assembly and to have Aboriginal Catholics, Torres Strait Islanders, non-Aboriginal people, non-Catholics attend, and to see our faith and our strength within the church and people working together and talking about issues and social issues in the community and how to resolve issues. The big thing at the moment is looking at the Uluru Statement, the statement from the heart, and it's I think it's great that and we've got a lot of Australians today wanting to support the Uluru Statement and having that voice. But I guess the key to all of that is, and my discussions with Father Frank Brennan, is it's good to have the statement, but really to talk about how we're going to do it. And I think that's some of the stuff we've been talking about in the plenary council and us as the Catholic Church in Australia, looking at how we can improve in areas and building on our faith. And me to do a welcome to country and talk about our connection to country and our spirit and the power of prayer and our connection with the Holy Spirit. And I just think the more we learn about Aboriginal people and country, it just makes us more Australian. And I think if we can lead that way within the Catholic Church, I think we've done a lot of work in this area. We need to promote what we've done, but I think it'll be an example for us to unite. And I feel that's the big issue with us as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Some of the history, the issues and problems and dysfunction, we tend to hit out. And who do we hit out against? Ourselves. And I think in that healing, and I find one of the big things from our assembly, our Catholic assembly in Townsville, was people of faith and of us coming together and working together. I'm not too sure how I'm going with time there, Jeremy, but
going well. You've got another 5 minutes if you need it. So yep.
Yes. So I just think it's important, and I guess the big thing with my family, I come from the Walker family in South Australia, and we're probably the biggest Aboriginal Catholic family in South Australia. And I think it's, us being Catholic, lifting our profile as Aboriginal people and as Catholics, and creating that unity in the community. And I know my connection, where I talked about our dream time in the Aboriginal, the human world, the physical and the sacred world. And the word I've been using to describe that is harmony. And recently, hearing a Catholic priest talking about the Trinity, and the word that he used with the Trinity was harmony. But also from that harmony creates unity. and I can see some of the dysfunction in our Aboriginal communities. There's no unity and definitely no harmony. Let me see if I've missed anything. Look, I think going to the peripheries, it's not just people, Aboriginal, the poor. I'm finding that, from COVID, a war, that, the wars that's happening around the world at the moment, anxiety is a big issue. And I think, from my experience being involved in the church, as people of faith are dealing with these issues much better. There's a hunger for our younger people. I was talking to Bishop Charles, who's up in Darwin, and he's saying some of the communities he goes to, that there's young Aboriginal people lined up to be baptised. Our younger people are looking for something. And I just think us as the Catholic Church in Australia shouldn't really miss this opportunity. And like I said, it's not just at the peripheries. It's all people are looking for something. And I think it's an opportunity for us to unite and come together as one.